Today on our 2015 Ford F250 Super Duty, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the BMW Custom Base Rails, an installation kit for fifth wheel trailer hitches. Part number BWR VK2401. This is what our rails look like when they're installed. This is going to allow you to install your fifth wheel hitch safely in the back of your truck. It's going to be made of a steel construction with a gray powder coat finish. The only holes that need to be drilled for this kit are the holes for the bolts that hold the rails to the bed of the truck. Each rail is going to have 3 slots on each side of the rail, and this is going to help accommodate different fifth wheel hitches that are out there. It will also accommodate a gooseneck adapter. Now your rails are going to run side to side. You're still going to have full access to your bed. However, keep in mind they do stick up about 1.5 inches. These are going to be custom fit frame brackets. They're going to be the same steel construction, same gray powder coat finish. It's going to mount to existing holes in the frame, so you're not going to have to drill any, which is going to save you a lot of time on your installation. Now that we've gone over some of the features, let's show you how to get this installed. First thing we need to do to begin our installation, we're going to take one of our rails and we're going to be marking the one that's going to be closest to the back of the vehicle. So what we need to do is we need to measure from our edge of our bed per the instructions. I'm just going to take a paint marker. I'm going to mark it there, come over to this side, do a mark there. And then what we want to do is we're going to go in between our wheel wells. We're going to make sure we have the same distance between the edge and the wheel well. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to put a mark on the outside of each rail, or each end of my rail. And what we're going to do is I'm going to take a hole punch. I'm going to do these 2 end holes on both ends of the rail and this very back center hole. And we're going to do the same thing to the other side. Next thing I want to do is I'm going to check underneath the bed to make sure that there's not anything when I draw out my holes that I'm going to be hitting it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a pilot hole in the center of my 4 holes on the ends of my rails. And then I'll repeat that on the other end of the rail. We're going to take our 4 holes that we drilled and we're going to open them up to full size, which is going to be 9/16. Then we're going to repeat that for our 3 remaining holes on the ends of the rails. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my rail in place. I'm going to take 4 of my bolts that are going to be going into it. I'm going to drop them in the holes. Now that my rail is in place, I'm going to drill my center hole. So I'm going to do the same process I did with my 4 outside ones. Start with a pilot hole and then drill it to the actual size the hole needs to be. Now that we have our holes drilled, I'm going to vacuum up all my clippings. I'm going to paint that bare metal on the holes to make sure, or to help with any corroding or rusting. And you can use any kind of paint. You can use clear coat if you want to. Since it's got a black bed, I'm just going to use some black spray paint. So now I'm going to go ahead and put my bolts in place. Now here on our passenger side, we're going to go ahead and we're going to install our frame rails. Before doing that, you can see where our bolts are coming down from our bed. So what you're going to have is you're going to have a spacer that has a half opening on it like this. This needs to go up inside of this channel so that when we tighten our frame rail to the bed, it doesn't flatten this corrugation right here. And then we're going to be doing that on both sides of the vehicle. So you can see we're not quite able to get it in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a crowbar. If you have a big enough screwdriver, you can do that. We're just going to bend it down a little bit. And this is going to be on the back side toward the back of the bed. Just like that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my bed rail. Again, we're on the passenger side. You're going to see 2 brackets on one end, or 2 bins at one end. These are going to face toward the outside of the vehicle. and these two are going to go toward the back of the vehicle. So what we'll do is we'll slide it right up into place, right over our bolts that we have in our rail on the top side of the bed. And I'm just going to take 2 nuts just to hold this in place for now. We'll just thread them on like that. So next we're going to take a hex bolt flat washer. We're going to go through this back hole here that goes through our frame. And then on our forward hole, we're going to have a spacer block with a hole in it. It's an offset hole. Same bolt. And we're going to go through that hole. So next, on the inside of our frame, we're going to take a flat washer, a split lock washer, and a nut. Put our flat washer against the frame, followed by our lock washer. Then we'll install our nut. Then we're going to do the same thing on this front one. And we're just going to loosely install these right now. We just want to hand tighten them. So once you have your 2 bolts installed, you're holding your rail in place with your washers and nut on the inside. We'll go ahead and remove these nuts that are coming down from the inside of the bed, or bolts. Then we're going to take spacer block. We're going to follow it with a flat washer, then a lock washer, and then our nut. So I was having a little bit of trouble getting my hardware on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a flat washer on it. Then I'm just going to put my nut on here. And then I'm going to tighten this one up with a socket to pull my bracket up against the bottom of my bed. And then I'm going to put all my hardware on this one first. So we'll take that nut off. So I'm going to take a 3/4 inch socket. Go ahead and tighten this up. So now let's see if we can't get our hardware on this back one here. And now that we have that on, we can remove that and do the same thing on this side. And then we'll repeat that process on the other side of the vehicle. Now we've gone ahead and removed our spare tire. This is going to make it a little bit easier to get this center bolt here in the back. So next we're going to have to put another one of these in, right in here. You can see the channel. We're going to have to take a screwdriver, or again, take a pry bar. You need to pry this down just a little bit, enough to get that in. So what we want to do is we're going to push that center bolt back up where it's flat like this. We want to slide this in, where we're going to line up that hole in the block with this hole so that the bolt will drop through. So now you can see our bolt has come through, spacer block up in the corrugation. Now we're going to take one of our other spacer blocks, offset hole. We're going to put it on, flat washer, lock washer, and we'll follow it with a nut. Next thing you want to do is you're going to have the spacer blocks like this, and where the corrugation drops, you want to slide this in underneath. Now you can do this 2 ways. I like to get my hardware in place, leave it loose to where I can just pull up on it and get that in. You can also put your frame rails on first and then drop your bolts down inside with these already in. I like to do it this way. That way when I set this down, this is not going to turn. There's going to be enough pressure on it so it'll stay straight. So with our bolts loose, we'll just pull up on it and we're going to slide this in. What that's going to do is going to fill this gap in this corrugation so that when we tighten it, this doesn't flatten out. We're going to put one in the front and the back on both ends. Keep in mind, these are not going to go around the bolts because the bolts are right on this edge. You just want to fill the gap. Next, what we want to do here under the bed, we're going to hand tighten these 2 bolts on both sides of the vehicle that are going up to our frame rail where we just put our spacer blocks. We'll tighten our center one. Next, we'll take our rail, set it to the front of the cab or front of the bed toward the cab, and with an extra set of hands, we're going to set our base into place in the rails. So once we got our fifth wheel base in place, we're going to take this rail and we're going to pull it all the way up against here, and then we're going to mark two outside corners, this center hole, most forward center hole toward the cab, and the two outside holes on the other side of the rail. Next, we're going to do the same process. We're going to start with a pilot hole, and we're going to repeat that for the three remaining holes. So now we'll open their holes up to the appropriate size. Once you've got your holes drilled to the proper size, go ahead and clean up all of our shavings and spray paint our holes. So now I'm going to take a spacer block, just like I did on the other rail. Slide it on both sides here. Drop our bolts in place. We'll drop our middle one into place. And we'll do the same thing with our spacer blocks on the other side of the rail. So next we'll take our offset spacer block, flat washer, a lock washer, and a nut. Then we're going to have another one on this side of this rail. We'll do the same thing. Then we'll repeat that on the other side of the vehicle. So now that we have our hardware on the ends of our brackets, we'll go ahead and tighten it down. Next, we'll do our center one for our front bracket. Once we have all of our hardware in place on the center bolt, go ahead and tighten it down. Next, we'll take a 3/4 inch wrench and socket, and we'll tighten down our brackets to our frames. And we'll do the same thing to the other side. Once you have all your hardware tightened, we'll torque it down to the specifications in the instructions. Next, we'll torque our two center ones. Next, with an extra set of hands, we'll torque down our brackets to our frame rails. And you're going to repeat that on the other side of the vehicle. Once you have all your hardware tightened up and torqued into place, you can go ahead and reinstall your spare tire and you're ready to go. And that'll do it for a look at and installation on the BMW Custom Base Rails and Installation Kit for fifth wheel trailer hitches, part number BWR VK2401 on our 2015 F250 Super Duty.